has gotten me to where I am right now, building a company that, this year alone is generating over $25 million for our clients. And us ourselves, we're generating just over $2.5 million with our companies combined. And it hasn't been easy, but it's been really fun.
I got $1 billion mindset, steady at the flow, navigating on my time spent, letting niggas know. $1 billion.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the internet's #1 success podcast, Into the Mind, where we break down and analyze the characteristics, skills, strategies, and systems of successful entrepreneurs so that together we can learn from their experiences and be inspired by their victories and replicate their formulas for success. I'm your host, Marlon Johnson, parkour athlete turned entrepreneur and real estate investor, and I am on a mission to help 7.8 billion people achieve success personally, professionally, and financially by empowering their minds and connecting them to the right people. Today, my guest is the epitome of what hustle, grit, and determination can produce. In his first 18 months of business in the real estate investing industry, he produced over $1 million in revenue. However, that's a far shot from when he started. See, back in 2007, as a child, he moved to Canada without knowing how to speak English. And throughout his childhood, he had to go through things like being bullied, being picked on. In fact, before he left college, he had racked up over $61,000 in debt and entered into the workforce full of theory, but missing experience. His parents had lost their money back in Colombia due to a company's corruption, and he worked his ass off day and night driving Uber just to break even and send money home back to the family. Since that humble beginning, he's acquired truly useful skills like marketing, sales, and building systems, which has allowed him to scale his business to breaking 7 figures. And today, he's on a mission to help over 2,000 real estate investors grow their business through proper systems and lead generation. I want to dive in deep on his origin story today in this episode. We're going to learn some tactics for generating leads and creating a system, but also, most importantly, we're going to learn about the mindset that he had to cultivate in order to survive the changing world. So help me in welcoming my host, my guest, who's the host of the Online Hustlers podcast, the CEO of, hopefully I'm saying this right, Hellcell Media, and the man that would give you the shirt off his back if you needed it, Esteban Andrade. Yo, Esteban, what's up, bro?
What's up, man? Thanks for having me.
Dude, of course, man. I'm excited for this. Yeah, we haven't seen each other since back in Florida. I think it was at the Scale and Escape event when I ran into you out there.
Yeah, man, it was such a great event, and also we were able to connect. So we connected with Sam as well, man, like having a dinner and everything. But I just went there, and my goal was to just meet people like you, or connect more with people like you, so that was kind of mission accomplished.
Bro, I'm happy to hear that. Well, I'm excited for this episode. We've been talking about since the moment you popped up on my radar, bro, before we even met down in Miami, you had popped up on my radar back when you had joined into one of our mentorship groups inside the Sub 2 community. You instantly, I can see that the community had taken a liking to you. You put yourself out there as a go-giver. You're offering to help people right away. And naturally, I was like, I want to get to know this guy. And upon listening to some of your podcast episodes, which, by the way, if you guys aren't listening to the Online Hustlers podcast, like, it just popped on my radar, and I started listening through some of those episodes, and I was blown away with the guests that you have, with the questions that you ask them, the research that you do on them. Phenomenal podcast. So today I'm excited to be jumping into your story because you have a pretty dope origin story, man. So I want to go back and talk about, where you started, because people can look at you now and say, like, man, he's got it figured out. He knows marketing. He knows sales. He's confident. He can just go out there and make 7 figures easy. But where did it start? Can you take me back to the beginning?
Yeah, man. Let's say, let me go back to when I came to the country, and knowing that my parents had achieved great things in their country, and I also wanted to achieve great things for myself in Canada when I came here. I always had this, like, big vision mindset where like I wanted to think big regardless of what stage in my life I was. And at the beginning, it was like getting a job at a good company. So at the beginning, it was like I wanted to get a job at a giant ass corporation. Like I wanted to be like in a big ass corporation. Why? Because I thought that they'll pay better, I'll look better, they'll call me Mr. Engineer, whatever, right? And then so it started by just knowing that you are capable of doing something much bigger than yourself, even if you don't have it accomplished just yet, or you have nothing, no experience, no knowledge, no nothing. Just started by having that thought. And when I went to school, I was like, I want to work in a big company. I want to work in a big corporation. My parents came from working from Coca-Cola and Procter and Gamble, like big corporations, and they worked their ass off the entire life to ultimately achieve that position. They started from the very bottom, like Coca-Cola at the lab, like doing just very technical or like analyst type of things, like just very like bare bones to like being directors. So I had an example to look at, and even if I didn't have them, I will always like look at research of people that had accomplished big things in the world that I was in, right? At that time, I was not really an entrepreneur. Like I was not really like looking to build a business. I just knew that I wanted to like achieve great things, regardless of what it was. So that's kind of like where it started. And that's essentially back in high school, man. Um, I wanted to graduate with great grades because I couldn't go into, let's say, university with what I had at the moment. Going to university was, oh, I'm gonna get a great job. People are gonna look at my university degree, my bachelor's diploma, and they're gonna give me a great job. Like they're gonna see that in my resume, and automatically it qualifies me to work at, I don't know, like a big company like Microsoft, HP, Facebook, Tesla, whatever, right? And so I decided to stay one more year in high school. So usually people do grade 12. I did grade 12 and I did grade 13, but it was my choice. And I did that when I was 16 years old. So my parents moved back to the country, and they left me here because it was my choice of me not having to go back to Colombia, but like staying in Canada and ultimately achieving my graduation, my ultimate graduation for high school. So staying another year in high school was for me an achievement and thinking big. And that all came because, again, I needed university grades, and I didn't want to go to basically community college and like start a community college. I wanted to go achieve something great. And even the principal, I remember the principal one time came and be like, Esteban, I want to talk to you. And be like, oh shit, what's going on? No, I really admire like what you're doing. Like, I did not know that your parents actually left the country and you're staying here living by yourself. And you're like 16 years old, 17 years old. And you haven't even, you haven't even like learned how to live by yourself, but you just made the ultimate sacrifice of making that decision, because I know you want to go to university. And I ended up staying that one more year, took the grades, and then that made me qualify to go to take university degree. But then, moving forward, like skipping that university path, I ended up getting to great programs, meeting great people, enjoyed the uni life, and ultimately made great connections. But one thing that I realized was that even though that I had thought so big and going to university wasn't an accomplishment for me, as soon as I graduated, I did not have any skill, really great skill whatsoever. It was just a paper. It was just a something that it was fake ultimately. And anyone that goes to university and think that, you know, taking these major projects or taking these major things will give you a job. It will not. Like, you ultimately need to work either an internship, have experience, bust your ass off, and acquire skill sets. And that's what I ended up doing after graduating from university, because you know, a lot of people work on regular jobs during university, but those regular jobs don't really give you the skill sets that will present to you on a great role, on a great position for after graduation. Some people end up doing bartending. Some people end up doing like barista, Starbucks or McDonald's or whatever, right? But I never really like acquired skill of, like, let's say, public speaking or talking to people in a way that I persuade them into buying something, into getting into enrolling them into whatever I think it's the best for them, like learning sales or learning marketing, right? Learning to attract or get attention from people, persuade people, and that that ended up being a hit right after graduation, because I did not acquire anything of that in the 4 or 5 years that I did in university, and made me go back into the grind, and I drove Uber.
Wait. So, before we get there, actually, I want to ask a question, man, because first off, 16 years old, deciding to stay back in stay in the country with your parents being gone, and you were on your own, like effectively on your own. Like, that's a pretty major decision to make at such a young age. Like, after you had made that decision, was there any sort of were you scared? Was there any sort of regret? Like,
you know what, man? I think I was just more fired up than any other time, because here's what happened. So we got our citizenship, our Canadian citizenship, and Canada always loves having new citizens. And then my parents were having such a difficult time because my brother was little, and also my mom was working really hard jobs. Like, she started by working on cleaning jobs, then like very bare bones assistance in like some labs, and like doing like very hand like labor jobs, and things that she's never done in her life, but she did it, and they saw their sacrifice and their effort of doing so. And then after that, like through time, she was able to get a better position, but it was just such a challenge for them. The weather, the job, the position that they were with my little brother. For example, my dad stayed in Colombia and my mom was living with us in Canada. So my dad was working his ass off to send us money, working at Coca-Cola for a good position, for a good role. And he would basically, the Colombian pesos will transfer over as Canadian dollars, and it doesn't last. Like, whenever you do that exchange of currency, it just doesn't last. Like, imagine like earning in pesos and sending money to your kids in Canada, which is Canadian dollars. It just doesn't last too much. So we were living in a basement. My parents were struggling more than ever. And then once we got the citizenship, they sat down with me and they told me, this is how they call me, Nico. So they call me, my middle name is Nicholas. So they call me Nico. So we got news for you. We are deciding to move back to Colombia. And so I just wanted to let you know that that's what we have decided. It's the best for your brothers, but it's the best for us. This is a very cold country. This is also very hard. Like, we're having all these like hard jobs, and it's better for us to go back into like having a better lifestyle back in Colombia. But they also told me, what do you want to do? And my mom was fully expecting me to say like, yeah, let's do it. I know that I can finish university back in Colombia and things like that, because my mom had already presented me like this paperwork of like, oh, by the way, when you move back, this is university number one, option number 2, option number 3. Like, These are the universities that you can apply to, so you can like work as an engineer, or so you can graduate as an engineer or whatever. And I was like, okay, that's cool. I guess we'll try that. But at the same time, I think I want to stay. So it was a shock by my mom, because here's the goal that I had. Ultimately, this was the ultimate goal that I had. I wanted to make sure I graduate from university. I didn't want to have the feeling to go back, like having to, for me, going back to Colombia, it was like doing 3 steps backwards. And to me, doing that was not learning the language perfectly as I wanted to learn it. So I wanted to like redefine, like get my English polished and my accent kind of removed. I had that goal. Also, I wanted to finish university degree to work in a Canadian company. And third, I wanted to find a path so that I could potentially apply to work in the US. I wanted to do that. So me going back to Colombia would make everything much harder. I wouldn't be speaking day-to-day English, all right? I would not graduate from a Canadian university. And also moving to the US will be way, way harder, even though I'm a Canadian citizen. So for me, I had to establish that I had a big vision, and whatever's in the way to get that big vision, to get that thing, to get that focus is going to be like a racquetball. It's going to be just literally just kicked out of the way. And when they told me that they were going to go back, I already had clear that that I wanted to achieve great things. And I also wanted to see the experience of what it would look like to live by myself.
Wow.
So I proposed to them, hey, let's try this for like the next 6 months, which is basically like the months that you need in high school to finish like an entire 2 terms. Let's say 6 months. Let's try for this 6 months, and I'll tell you how it goes. Why? Because I'll finish high school, and if you want to support me, that's great. But I'll finish high school, and I want to get my university credits, and once I finish high school and I apply to university, we'll see. Maybe going back to Colombia makes more sense, because I'm not gonna get accepted to in a university, but we'll see. And everything came down to like, I really want to prove myself, right? Like there's always something that you want to prove to someone or to anyone, and on most of the time it's yourself, right? Because you are your own, most of the time you are your own wall. Like you are the only person that is going to make you not make great decisions. Most of the time you're talking yourself out of things, and it's not someone else, it's not an external force, it's you. You ultimately are the one to make the biggest decisions about your life. And me at 16 years old, I was willing to risk it and see how living by myself was great. I literally imagined myself, oh my God, I'm gonna be by myself. I'm going to like bring so many friends that I'm gonna be bringing like some friends, some chicks at my apartment and everything. And then I thought about so many good things that could happen. I mean, that didn't happen because I ended up living with an old lady. So I was like, God damn it. My mom like made sure that I was like basically locked up, not locked up, but like I was not doing like all this disastrous stuff, right? And she found like an old lady apartment that she lived in a second room. So I lived with her for like when the time that I had to finish high school, and I couldn't do all that fun stuff that I wanted to do. So yeah, man, like sometimes I don't even know like what, at 16 years old, like what kind of things, like why would you say that at 16 years old is such a weird, or it is not usual to see kids making those decisions. Like
no, I mean,
it's not.
Esteban, like brother, that is absolutely amazing. And you're right, it's abnormal. I mean, I think about the 16-year-olds I know now and the 16-year-olds I've worked with, and to find somebody that not only has the vision for themselves of such a grand, I know this is what I want to do, to have that level of certainty, but then to actually act on it and then to follow through with it, to actually live it out and not just cave in when it got a little uncomfortable, to say that, like, I was so excited about this. That's amazing. And you went on, you lived on your own, you finished up school, you went to uni, and you made it through uni. You got the degree, right? Like, this was the goal. I freaking made it. I did it. I became the person, only to find out that the degree wasn't really what you expected it to be.
The
Man,
real
I got
life, the real world is not what it is, how it's pictured out there. And I
yeah.
think the real world is, imagine this machine, this great engine, where big corporations pay to be fitting this great engine, and the great engine is run by university. What happens is that people are born and they end up going to high school. Well, they end up going to elementary, middle school, high school, and then the great engine starts preparing little soldiers at early stages. Like, I would say that the first stage is high school. Like, they start preparing little soldiers so that in university or college, these soldiers are more prepared to be qualified to be working for these big corporations, right? Now, what I felt was that I went into a world where everyone was like a little soldier, and I had to go through to this job fairs, everyone looking for the same thing, everyone the same stage as me. They're all competing for, like, oh, you did have experience here, or you have better grades. I'm gonna give you a better an interview opportunity. And like, all these people are just made to fit these giant corporations. This is how I see it. They're made to fit these giant corporations that are ultimately paying for this high level education for people, because it's good for this, big corporations. Like, it creates jobs, which ultimately is balance, of course, right? But at the same time, I realized that for me, going into like the job force and going into like getting a regular job, it was just being the pawn of the grand scheme of the chess that it was there, right? So I graduated, and of course, because I did not have, let's say, a great amount of experience doing something, or I did not have, let's say, the biggest grades that could stand out separate to others, I was not elected to be in these interviews right away, or to be hired right away. But I did find myself a way to get interviews, even I did not have the experience working on the field, even if my grades were not the best. I actually found a way by first studying exactly what my client avatar wanted from me. Who is my client avatar? Would be the jobs, right? Like these companies that I wanted to apply. And I started cold emailing and cold calling these jobs so that they can give me a interview opportunity. Apart from using these Indeed sources and LinkedIn sources to apply for jobs, doing cold emails and doing cold calling was something that I realized it works even better, because you're getting them, like, let's say it's going to be out of the blue, but you're also giving them a great offer. Hey, I'm here, recently graduated with X amount of experience, and I know that you want this from an applicant. I'm willing to work for free or an internship with you for your company in order to get experience and help you with the X or Y project that I saw on the website or in the job application. So that's kind of like what I wanted. Like I thought that was the best thing that I could do. Why? Because no one was like returning my LinkedIn or Indeed application, like for interviews. And I decided to work for Uber because I also knew that Uber would give me the time freedom to choose when I wanted to make money and when I wanted to be busy, right? Uber gives you that choice. So ultimately, having the choice of me working either in the mornings or working at late at nights would be better for me finding a job, or would be better for me if I find a job, I'll get a free internship or a very low paid internship that would get me in the job force.
So bro, I gotta highlight this for everybody, because what you just said was a golden nugget, that you started reaching out to these people. You went through the average, avenues of, let me go on LinkedIn, let me go and put my resume out there, let me submit it through the traditional means of going and getting employment. And when you found that it wasn't working for whatever reason, maybe you're just like everybody else's application, you don't have like that special cheat code to get you the job, you actually started cold calling and cold emailing them. And this is the part I want to highlight. You said that you actually studied the prospect. You understood what they were looking for. It wasn't just all about, man, Esteban wants to go and be an engineer, so I'm going to just push it out there. It's like, no, you actually said, well, what are they looking for? Who are they looking to hire? Who do they need? And you started to make yourself into that person. And I love this part, because even though it was a cold call, it was coming unexpected out of the blue, like you said, you actually figured out, how do I add more value to my offer? And I want people to understand that, because people are right now reaching out, they're cold calling in their business, whether it's direct sales, it's B2B, B2C, whatever it is. And they're feeling like, man, people don't want this. Well, you looked at your offer and you said, how do I make it better? Okay, I can offer my services for free. I can see how I can fit the mold better. That's just ingenious. And also it's hustle. Like you're actually getting off of your butt and you're doing something about getting the position, getting the thing you want. You're being persistent. And that, again, that's just uncommon. I'm sitting here thinking like, man, like, who taught you to do this? Like, what, like, were you reading books? Like, what made you so hungry to go get at it?
Honestly, man, one of the biggest things that I did was I listened. The people that gave me feedback, I wouldn't listen to everything that they would give me, but I would listen to specific nuggets that they would give me. And most people that would give me feedback are going to be your parents. Now, sometimes your parents never gone through like an entrepreneurship route, never being a business owner or whatever. But for example, my mother like had like this inner hunger of like doing things great. Like she had the inner hunger of like making sure that whatever she did, she went all into it. And even though there was a lot of things that I did disagree on with my parents, I took those bigger nuggets and applied them as my core values. And a lot of people end up not listening to their parents because their parents are not these Grant Cardones or Gary Vaynerchuk's, but they've lived through time and they have seen failure and they've seen wins. And a lot of times, even though it doesn't fit your entrepreneurship route, they do have great tips and nuggets. And one of the biggest nuggets that I got from my mom is being resilient, is that regardless of whatever happens, if you fail, you stand up and you keep going. And because you're gonna see that in high school or middle school or elementary, where it's like, for example, like if you're being bullied, look, if you're being bullied and someone try to put you down, you look up, you know that there is something better. Don't listen to these people. Don't listen to this in like outside noise. You stand up again and you keep going, right? Even though it looks like failure or it feels like failure, there's 24 hours in the day to make it right again. Like an average human being will stay in failure and will compress, but a superhuman or like seven-figure human being or a millionaire mindset will know that there's 24 hours again to make it right once again, and that is going to be taken as a lesson. So, taking a few nuggets from my parents was great, but of course that was not enough because I needed to find greater mentors, bigger mentors. And I feel that That's when I started in back in 2015. I had already heard about Grant Cardone, Gary Vee, but I never really consumed their stuff. I thought that Gary Vee was funny, that he interrupts people, that he does, cool stuff and everything, garage sales and stuff. But in 2016, when I drove over, that's when I started like consuming their content, and I was like listening to their stuff, like listening in Uber, while I didn't have people in my car. I would go into their podcast, press play, and just listen to these guys. And some of these guys would give such a good nuggets to find jobs too, like for people that are looking for like they're trying to open their mind, that they became my mentors, Gary Vaynerchuk and Grant Cardone. I think they were the top first people that I ended up listening to, taking a lot of notes. And I think I got the tips of cold calling for a job, either from Grant Cardone or Gary. I think that some of them mentioned about like how cold calling will be, even though it's annoying to do it, or like it's painful, it is so powerful. It's such a powerful marketing engine that will make you a lot of money and will give you a lot of opportunities, right? It's been there forever, but you got to do it. Like, it has to be part of your process, outbound process. And so I applied the same thing for like doing cold emails, going to YouTube and understanding how I could potentially cold email a manager on a job. And all of those were things that would listen in the Uber. If you're talking here mindset, man, if you're in Uber, you're driving Uber right now, and you want to make a lot of money, did you know that you can take the time that whenever you're not with the passenger to listen to podcasts or audiobooks or anything that would give you better knowledge and better tips on things, and just consume that, and you'll see how much you're gonna be able to like understand. You're gonna see how much at the end of the day you'll be like, wow, like I've gotten so much knowledge. And if you're doing Uber and you have a passenger, make sure that you have a conversation with that passenger. Make sure that you start a conversation, be relatable, understand what what maybe their day is all about, connect with people, build rapport. Maybe some of these people would end up giving you a connection to someone else that would change your life completely. Now, I did that, and while driving Uber, I had several hundreds of conversations. My goal was to have a pleasant trip and giving them a pleasant experience on the Uber drive. Now, some people would not like to talk, and I respect that. So I'll just ask them, do you want any type of music, or is it okay if it's just quiet? If it was quiet, then it's perfect for me. I'll go into my podcast mode. Okay, but if they want a conversation, then I open up with a conversation, something that is relatable, something that I noticed from their outfit or from they came from. I give them a compliment, and then I ended up having a conversation about potentially what they do and what they do for a living, where they're heading, or things like that. And then if they ask me, I'll tell them what I'm doing. And a few of those conversations where I connected with a lot of them, they gave me three job interview offers. They gave me the chance to go down to a bar to discuss business, because they see that I had potential. Now, I missed that opportunity, but that's because I was working and I already had another job, like, and I did not like take the chance. Like, if I was more like, let's say, risky, or like be like, oh my God, this is an opportunity, I could have gone, stop my Uber drive and go to the bar where they were discussing business, because they were looking for like salespeople, or they were looking for something like that in a bar in Toronto. But I did not do it because I already had another trip aligned. So that was an opportunity that I missed. But then I had multiple conversations, and there's so many conversations that I learned things. I learned that you can make money out of advertising. I learned how hedge funds work. I learned how I learned how strippers make money. And because I ended up picking up a few strippers too late at night. I picked up doctors, lawyers, advertiser managers, a few CEOs. I picked up hedge fund owners, and then when I would like make these people, when I would drop these people in these huge mansions, I was like, wow, I just had a freaking huge conversation with this guy, and look where he lives, and this guy has a freaking Ferrari, and he took it Uber with me on my freaking Mazda 6. Wow. You know what I mean? And so it's things like I learned to maximize my return on the things that were happening in my life. So maximizing my return, so for example, right now, if I end up having a airplane flight, like I just take a flight somewhere and it's 3 hours, 4 hours, it is the most laser focused time for me to either read a book that I wanted to read or do some work, pay for the internet and do some laser focused time, like laser focused work, because you're in the airplane, you're not moving, like it's great weather, like there's no notifications, there's no craziness, you're just in there to maximize your time, right? And I ended up doing that, and in such a short period of time I learned that when I cold called these people, and that they had a company in Toronto, in the north of Toronto, they did not have an opening yet. So I cold called the sales manager, and the sales manager I got his attention because I cold called. They did not have an opening slot at that moment, but because I cold called and I said, hey man, I saw your job position 1 month ago that you guys recently closed, but your company looks really interesting to me, and I'd like to just come and see if there is an opportunity to get an interview and potentially get a position at your company. I feel that we could potentially be a great fit. I'd be willing to work for free. I'd be willing to work on an internship basis on exchange of a great referral, or in exchange of giving me a job after that work, after that free work, right? So I did that. I had the conversation. He was like, hey man, look, come into for an interview. We'll see what we could do. We actually are thinking about expanding. We just haven't posted the job yet. And that's, again, this is after doing it like 300 times. Like it's not one time, okay?
Wasn't the first call.
Times. Like it's not a one call close is not 1-to-1 ratio. It's like 1 of 300, all right? But that landed me a job that was $39,000 a year plus a car allowance to work under the CEO, president of the company. And I was like, I did not understand how big that was. Literally, working under a CEO, someone that has this entrepreneurship mind, and someone that has gone through like all the struggles, wins, and all this hustle, and working under them and like reading their mind was one of the biggest experience that I ever had, even though the pay was shit. I think it was not even 39,000. I think it was 29,000. Yes, it was $29,000 plus car allowance. And I did that for the rest of 2016 until I got a call, or actually I got a message in LinkedIn from a company in Michigan saying, hey man, I've seen the updates that you've done in your resume, because I would update every single time my resume whenever I accomplish something. Like, want to make sure that you have your accomplishments written down. If you're not writing down your accomplishments, if you're not writing down what you've done, your wins, and the skill sets that you've gathered, and you're still looking for like an opportunity, a job, you're doing yourself a disservice, right? If you don't know what you're being able to accomplish, you're doing yourself a disservice. It's like when people are not documenting stuff in social media, like document that, like put up the case studies, put up the testimonials, put up the great work that you've done with like Pace Morby, for example, put on the great work that you've done with, I don't know, Steve Trank, like all those are your accomplishments, and now you're documenting it. So I did that for LinkedIn, and I ended up getting a call from this recruiter contracting house in Michigan that wanted to interview me for several jobs in Ford, Chrysler, and other part manufacturers, companies in Michigan. And that's kind of like my first journey on like, okay, I'm gonna move to the US. That's kind of like how it started, man. I think that everything happens because there is a domino effect on the decisions that you make. And the momentum is huge. If you see that you have momentum, keep going, right? If you're winning, keep going. Don't get complacent, and keep going at it.
Well, it's
Right.
like you said, it's a compound effect. And like you said it wasn't the first call you made. It wasn't the first email you sent out. It was hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. And I'm sure if I listened to your first call versus the call where that sales manager was actually impressed, I'm sure I would have seen a big difference. It's like, whoa, you went from stuttering over your words, not even quite sure what you were asking them for, to clearly defining, this is what I'm looking for. This is what I see in you guys. You guys are doing amazing. This is what I believe I can give you, and this is what I would like in return. And I believe it's a great offer for you guys. And your ask, it was intentional. Those phone calls that you were making were intentional. And the fact that you kept coming back to it over and over. And I love what you said, right? Recognizing, see, I think sometimes we have this like impatience where we want it and we want it now. In fact, we don't even want it now. We want it yesterday. And we forget about the steps that we have to go through, not just to have it, but to keep it. Because getting it isn't the hard part. It's being able to keep and maintain and show up consistently over and over. And the process that you went through actually honed you, because from the time you were young, you said, I want to do something great. I want to build something great. I want to be that person. And the universe said, okay, I got you, right? But let's get you prepared. Let's make you strong enough to hold on to your treasure. So that's cool. I'm curious, when you were spending that time with that CEO too, you said you got to read his mind. You got to like see what was going on there in his mind. And even earlier, you mentioned, the difference between a millionaire's mindset, just even how you approached failure and how you look at opportunities, that it doesn't matter where you're sitting. It doesn't matter what's actually going on. If you're flipping burgers at Burger King, there's no reason why you can't do it with excellence. There's no reason why you can't do it the best. When you're getting on the airplane, there's no reason why that has to be 45 minutes, 2 hours, 6 hours of zoning out. So what's a part of that mindset, that makeup, when you're looking at that millionaire's mind or that CEO's mind? What did you see that was different in comparison to maybe how you were thinking before, or just in general, how your peers were thinking?
Man, one of the biggest things that I would see in difference between, for example, my colleagues, which were regular employees, and the CEO, the president of that company, was how open he was in listening to me, and how open he was into listening to his employees. Here's one thing, man. Whenever you're building out something and you want it so bad, and you want to become this great entrepreneur that makes a business, makes hundreds of thousands of dollars per year, and then hundreds of thousands of dollars per month, it comes from a selfish thought. Like, you want this so bad for yourself. It doesn't matter what it is. I'm gonna go get that, even if I have to, like, for some temporarily talk with my closest friends, or like stop talking with some family members that don't agree with me, or like remove my circle that is toxic, whatever. Like, there is a selfish motion in there, right? So when you start building, you build out of selfishness. You start generating sales, you start getting contracts, you start getting your first clients, you start getting your first deals. But then what I realized when I became an actual business owner is that now everything switches. So this millionaire, this CEO, this president was so open-minded into listening to me, into like hearing my ideas and how to better his company, the position. Because I would come in with like these amazing ideas of like how to make the tech that they had inside of the company, because I would see some holes. I'd be like, hey man, like I noticed this, I noticed that, I noticed that. I feel like we could have a conversation about this, because if we do this better, then it will be faster and will be easier for me and it will be easier for them. And he was always so open in listening to his employees. So here's what happens when you become a leader, when you become a CEO, when you become a business owner. Now you have to be selfless. Now instead of thinking about yourself, you become selfless. How do you make sure that the people around you grow as well? The people around you also get some of the flowering that you're getting as your tree is growing, right? How are you making sure that now your VAs, your employees, whoever it is, also get value and they're also growing? How do you make sure that this people, like for example, like your close family members, even if they don't have this entrepreneurship lifestyle, they're also getting some sort of value, your circle, some sort of value from you, right? And so it's a very selfless act. You start a company being selfish, and you grow a company being selfless. That's how it is. And that was one of the biggest things that I noticed from him, and that's why he allowed me to grow, because I incorporated those ideas instead of like my colleagues. They'll be like, I don't think so. You have to ask him. I've never really thought about that, so I don't know, or whatever, right? And then you go to someone that has more high power, or like someone that has way more experience than you, maybe years of experience, like maybe 2 times the age that you have, and they'll listen to you. That was the biggest thing why he was successful as a business owner. That's why he had 150 freaking employees at that time. I don't know where he is at right now, but his name was Nick, and he allowed me to grow, right? So that was one of the biggest things. That millionaire wants other people also to grow, and they also want to always give, all right? Give back. And so he ended up paying a consultation to me. He ended up making sure that he would spend more time into like my education, giving me a higher level of knowledge about certain things about the company itself, or about what the industry was, and just investing more into me, because I asked for a change or an improvement, right? So that was one of the biggest things that I would see. And he was willing to spend money, right? He literally, for me, man, like I got to an idea on how to improve Salesforce and how to improve the quotation system, tech system that they had internally, and that he paid. I remember it was like $600 for an hour for the Salesforce consultant. And I was like, what the hell? This guy just paid $600 for an hour because of me? And so now I had to like go into this room, imagine this room where here's a Salesforce consultant, here's the Salesforce rep, and here's the CEO, here is the, what's his name? The systems manager, and I was there presenting my idea. And I was like, I have no freaking experience. Like literally, this is my first ever job. But I went off into like, look, this is what's happening when the order comes in. It takes 3-4 steps to do it. We could do it in 2 steps, one step, if we do it this way. Here's what's happening when the order is the items are selected, blah, 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 blah. And then, so I ended up presenting all these amazing, like great thoughts that I had to this person from Salesforce. And it was, I remember it was like 1 hour. It was supposed to be like 30 minutes. And he ended up being like, yeah, man, we're done. I paid it. We're good. Let's make it happen. Let's put it into practice. And then I asked the systems manager, be like, what do you mean he paid? Isn't this like included? Isn't it like part of it? And the systems manager was like, no, man, he just paid like $600 for that 1 hour. And I was like, wow, okay, this guy is willing to put money into growing. Like, look, man, like I was recent in that job. I had no idea about like exactly what I was doing. I just had great thoughts and great thought process. And he put his confidence in me, and he paid money. He put money into the development of me and on the system or whatever it is. So that was one of the biggest things that I saw from him.
Man, that's huge. And the crazy part is like that sort of thing is something you can't buy. You don't learn that in school. You don't get to, no one tells you about how to truly make your people feel important, to truly make them feel a part of what they're building. And I mean, like that experience in and of itself, I now see why, in hindsight, maybe you didn't know it back then, but in hindsight, you recognize, man, the salary was the least of what you received from working with them. So as you got to work with him, as you worked with Nick and you learned and you got to see what it was like to grow a business, I'm curious for yourself, at what point, was there ever a point where, you were being treated well enough in that business where it was almost like, man, do I want to walk away and still continue to create my own thing or stay there? Because I think a lot of people, they struggle with that. Like they're in a position where they still have loyalty to maybe the organization, the company, the place that has built them, and they still want to go and build their own thing, and vice versa. They're also worried. They're afraid, like, yo, Esteban, man, I got this rock star on my team, but I'm scared that one day they might leave me. Should I continue to invest in them? Because it might, like, Nick invested in you and you left. Like, what if my guy leaves me? Like, what do you say to those people?
Well, I think that in order to really mold the team, you should be able to compensate your team members real well and incentivize them to your mission, to your vision, because that's ultimately why they would choose to stay or not. I mean, like there's going to be some external forces, like parents get sick, family members get sick, moving to another state, whatever, that would make people like quit or move to another job. But if they know that there's a big vision, if they know the mission, right? And these people are also incentivized towards achieving that North Star, you will lengthen the time that your rock stars will stay. Now, all comes down to like great salary, but also commission structure and bonus structure. Whenever we're working on a sales and marketing organization such as wholesaling, there's so much opportunity to give commissions to your VAs, to your lead managers, to your closers, based on closed deals, right? Based on the performance that company is going through. Because like, if you put the North Star that, hey, we want to achieve this big thing, but we cannot do it if we're not growing as a company and generating more revenue. But if you meet certain KPIs, then you'll be able to like get, let's say, a percentage of the deal, or or let's say, for example, a standard commission bonus for every single deal, plus every single month, if you meet a specific criteria, you could also get a bonus, plus every quarter, if you meet every criteria for that specific quarter, you can also get a bonus. People are being incentivized that way, but also are incentivized that there is room for growth for them, because the vision is so big, the mission is so big. The company is growing, you're looking to grow, because if your company is not growing, you're dying. If your company is not growing, you're disservicing your employees, because they're not going to see themselves in the future there, right? Especially the rock stars. So me, when I decided to move, it's because I had an external force that was pressuring me, which was bigger opportunity to move to another country. I wanted that. I wanted to move to another country. I don't think he could have given me the opportunity to work from the US and pay me a US salary. That would be unrealistic. And also move to the US, higher salary, like almost double salary, US pay, so US dollars, which is like 33% more than Canadian dollars. And I was going to be able to pay off my school $60,000 in debt that I had with how much I made. And that was the first step that I did in order to get into the US. I remember he did tell me that he could bump up my salary when I told him that I had the idea of leaving for another job, that they were giving me an opportunity. But the offer was just way better, like double better, like plus all the other benefits in working in the USA than this one. But if he had matched it and given me a great incentive and so on, I would 100% have stayed, because I would be working under a CEO, which did not happen when I moved to Michigan. Like when I moved to Michigan, I became the pawn that we were talking about, right?
Yeah.
I became the other one, like just the other person, just another one, right? And it all has its pros and cons. This one gave me more money, like in salary, but the roof was like not too high. It was very, very, very like limiting. And the one that was a startup, the guy, Nick, he gave me the opportunity to grow real fast in 4 months and work under him, but the salary was not that great. And I know that if I had stayed longer, he would have raised my salary, because I already knew what other people were basically earning. That were like maybe 1 year or 2 years with me. But yeah, man, like if you're wanting to keep your employees, your rock stars, pay them well, have a great commission structure, have a great bonus structure, make sure that your vision and mission is freaking solid, and hire people that fit your core values. Like if people are not the same core values as your company is and as you are, like it's also not going to be something that is going to keep them. Like it has to be fit.
Yeah. And I want to, again, like for the listener right now that is going through that challenge of maybe you're losing people and you find that there's a constant turnover, right? What Esteban said, right? Making sure the core values are there. Also, take a look at yourself and ask yourself as a leader, are you doing the things Esteban just described? Are you giving them the incentives? Are you painting a picture and keeping that vision so crystal clear that they know each day what the mission is, what the target is? Or is the vision this today, this tomorrow, this next week? And ultimately, people feel like they're getting this whiplash from trying to keep up with you. So what's really cool too, and we might even have to do this into a part 2, man, because there's so much depth with you and your story, bro. So you let me know if you got to have a hard stop, but there's a lot of depth there. You went through essentially a contrast, and I want to highlight this. Like it wasn't just this beautiful ride up, right? There was ups and downs. There was, oh, cool, I got to experience these victories, and I got to be somebody important inside of an organization. I had a voice inside of an organization. I was able to be an individual, really collaborating with the growth of this group. And then I went to the US. I found this better opportunity where there was a lot of these incentives on the outside, but then I was just a voiceless pawn inside of this. And you get to see this, whoa, wait, what's going on? This contrast that ultimately gives you a deeper perspective. So yeah, I was gonna say, like, if you have the time, let's talk about that, like of getting into Michigan, coming to the US, getting the better job, but ultimately realizing maybe it wasn't all it was chalked up to be.
Yeah, let's go dive into it.
So what was that when you got there, right? You get the better job, you're getting better pay, you're finally in the US, you're receiving US dollars. What's going on there from there? Like what basically made you realize, man, this maybe isn't what it's all chalked up to be?
Yeah. So I got to Michigan, and I remember, man, having my Mazda 6. I got a ticket for speeding on that first time. It's crazy. I had every single thing that I moved from from my room in my car, so I couldn't see the back mirror. And all I remember is like, listening to my music and podcasts, and then I get stopped. Man, the first days in Michigan, it was like getting a freaking speeding ticket, and like going to this place that was everything was so snowy. I got to a place that was basically a shithole, because like I was not willing to pay like more than $500 a month. And it was like, it was so crazy, like the change, it was so crazy. And then I started working. So like, going to Michigan compared to Toronto, man, uh it was quite different. Like Toronto, you have the city vibe, where there's a lot of things going around. People are moving, people are working, there's traffic, there's like people in suits on, in bikes, they're downtown Toronto, and like all this kind of stuff. It's really very like New York. And then you go to Michigan, in the suburbs of Detroit, where it's like everything is like very spread out. Everything is like, you need a car for everything and anything. um and then it comes down to, I guess, there's no culture shock, but it comes down to like, now going to the office, me wanting to do everything so good from the very beginning, giving my all. Like literally, I wanted to like show off, and I did that. I wanted to show off for like the first months, the first time that I was there, asking questions, being proactive, getting feedback, giving feedback. Everything was so good. I ended up being hired for Magna, which was a automotive parts company. And then it was like, it hit month 4, and everything started becoming so common. Like everything started becoming like, this is I'm doing this again. Like, this is not changing. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I want more action. Like I want to feel like I'm doing, I'm growing, I'm doing
Yeah.
different things. And the first 3 months of your job, all the way to the first 6 months, you're gonna grow 100%. But usually, if it's like a corporate job, such as an engineer or something like that, or whatever it is that you're doing, it becomes very stagnant very quick. And your mind starts playing your game, saying like, okay, I'm comfortable, but I guess this is always going to be like this. And then you start asking yourself like, should I do something else? Should I just like stay and like chill and just go out with friends? And like, so I started doing that. Started like, getting more in the comfortable place and things like that. And then, but it was like 1 month doing that, and I was like, every single day I'm coming, doing the exact same thing, taking the exact same route, going to the exact same elevator, just sitting in the same exact desk, the same exact things or tasks that I had to do, or issues or whatever, and doing the exact same thing. I gotta figure something out myself. Like I started again. I had stopped doing some podcasts and listening to podcasts and things like that. And that was my biggest flaw. I don't want to call it a flaw, but I wish I could have done it better. Like when I started working for Nick, I grew so much because I worked under him. I didn't think that I needed like to listen to this podcast and things like that. And then when I got my first 4 months into this Michigan job, I wanted to like, enjoy Michigan. I mean, get to know Michigan, but also work and great, generate money and everything. But I stopped learning. Like I stopped learning more. All right. And when I realized that because I stopped learning, I stopped growing, everything changed. You start like asking yourself questions like, am I really good? Am I really capable of doing better things? Am I really in a position where I could make more money? Am I really in a position where I could have a better life or whatever? And and whenever the mind is telling you this is too comfortable, you have to immediately switch. Like you have to immediately be like, go back into the road that got you here. Like go back to the basics, start grinding again, or like learning again. Continuously make sure that you feed off your mind. And at that time, I did not want business. I just wanted growth. I wanted to like learn new things. I wanted to be a different person tomorrow.
Yeah.
And the reason why is because I believed that if I did something better than I did before, I could achieve something better, right? It's very simple. And I also believe that people are not better than you. Like, for example, like I'm not better than you. I feel like, and I heard this very recently too, people are not better than you. They just know something that you don't know. They believe something that you don't believe. And they're doing something that you're not doing right now. So I wanted to put myself in the position so that Esteban of tomorrow is better than Esteban of today. Because in order to be the Esteban of tomorrow, I had to essentially change the Esteban of who I am today, right? And it all comes down to like, how much are you willing to get outside of the comfort that this new life, this new change is giving you? Every single time, things are going to be comfortable. Things get comfortable through time, but it's up to you to make it uncomfortable again. Or if you're working for a great company like ours, we will make sure that things are not the same all the time, right? So, so we encourage growth. Like one of our core values is like compete with your own potential. I always thought about I had to compete with my own potential. All right, I had to grow or I'll die. And I started listening to again to podcasts, and I was like, it was like immediate. It was like instant. My God, like Gary Vee has such great things. Grant Cardone has such great things. Frank Kern has such great things. Like other influencers, well, other people out there that are having great podcasts give so many good nuggets and interesting stuff. I got to consume these things, right? And so I spent the next 5 months, 5 to 6 months, like learning new things, kind of like listening to new things. When I was in 2017, when I was working for Magna, and that encouraged me for growth once again. So it encouraged me that next year I'm not going to be in the same place, in the same position as I am this year. That's for sure. Even if it is inside of the company that I'm in, I'm going to be in a different place. So I decided to like make sure to take courses or take podcasts, courses that the company would give me, or the courses that I would find online. And then ultimately started again applying for another job at a bigger company for bigger pay. And I got that. Like I remember 10 months in, I got an interview again from the recruiter that brought me in. It's also positioned me in Chrysler, and I worked for Chrysler. I started working for Chrysler on 2018, January of 2018. So I did an entire year with Magna, which was great people. I tried to go up in levels there, but wasn't really possible. So I decided to like move to another company. And that, that kind of started because I knew that if I'm not learning, if I'm not growing, I am dying. All right. That's ultimately what made me like get that other job that paid me now $12,000 a year extra, which to me was great for the moment. And it made me work for a bigger corporation, even a bigger corporation. These were like 14,000 employees in one place. 14,000 employees in one building, dude.
That's huge.
Pretty crazy.
You know, Esteban, what's crazy, man, is like Dude, as you're describing everything, and like people are just like, man, like this guy did so freaking much. But if we're literally looking at the timeline, right, this is not a long period of time. Like you're describing a timeline that someone else might describe, but it would have taken them 25 years to go through the experiences, the realization, the moving on to the next job, the getting to that place of being comfortable, the getting to that, oh shit, I need to change something about what I'm doing and dive back into progressing and working on myself and then showing back up and then going for that next bigger thing. Like this is, dude, you did this in such a compressed period of time. I want to highlight, like you were working your ass off. Like once you got directed, once you knew what the vision was, once you knew what the target was, you were going to work. Like that's impressive, man. Like I just gotta give you your props for that, dude. Because even like as you're telling me, like it gets me excited. Like I'm getting fired up right now of like, man, like I just want to go out and work harder than I'm already working. So I freaking love that. So I'm gonna be respectful of your time here too, because man, like I think with you, we could go for like probably like 2-3 hours, bro. Like
Yeah,
there's no
I
question
love
about
to,
that.
I love to share everything, as you know, the mindset part of everything that has gotten me to where I am right now, building a company that, you know, this year alone is generating over $25 million for our clients. And us ourselves, we're generating just over $2.5 million with our companies combined. And it hasn't been easy, but it's been really fun. You know what I mean? I created two companies this year. One company this year called Remote Latinos and remotelatinos.com. And that company helps real estate investors and wholesalers run a lean team, because we are basically getting rock stars from another country overseas, and we first look in Latin America. So people that live in my countries, Mexico, Colombia, Venezuela, Brazil, Argentina, Chile, Uruguay, Panama, Costa Rica, all of these countries. And then if there's talent elsewhere, that's great. We'll help you be that connector of great people. And that company grew really fast in the last year, and we were able to like partner up with the right people in order to serve the right amount of people. The other company that I created in 2019 and went full on this in 2020 was it's Hustle Media. So Hustle Media, just like, but it's HESEL Media. That's the one that I ended up choosing the name of it. And it all came down because, you know, I believed in that, like, but I also believe in being a smart hustler. So yeah, man, like we've been doing great. I love to like continue my episode here in a secondary episode right
Dude,
now.
100. We're doing a part two. Like that's like I'm making that happen, even if I gotta like beg you to come back on, because I want to dive deeper now. Because I mean, that's just, and Esteban, like this is why I like to do these episodes and I like to dive into the mind, because it's so easy. I mean, you do such a fantastic job at presenting yourself, putting value out there on social media, on YouTube, on your Instagram. And guys, like I'm going to have Esteban's links below because I want you to go and follow him. I want you to stay connected with him, collaborate with him, work with him, just listen to his content, see if you could do business with him. You do a great job at putting that value out there. However, I know from experience of when we see somebody that is established, who's working on themselves and growing, sometimes it feels like the gap is too wide. Sometimes it feels like, man, he must have always just been good at what he's doing now. They don't see the years and years and years, the days and days and days. I mean, we didn't even talk about that when you were driving Uber. There were times where you were just giving up sleep. You were sleeping in the car. Like there was so much sacrifice. Or I don't even like to use the word sacrifice anymore. There was so much time invested, so much energy and attention invested into bettering yourself and bettering your situation. And it's important that people start to understand this about you so that they can now realize, oh my gosh, like you just said, you're not better than anybody. No one, I'm not better than anybody. None of us are better than anyone. We're all just missing a little something. It's okay. Maybe they've done something. Maybe they learned something, or maybe they believe something, like you said, that we haven't yet figured out and tapped into. So first off, bro, thank you. Thank you for coming on, sharing your story, taking the time to be here. I know you're visiting family and you could be doing a million other things, but for you to come and really share yourself with our audience, I mean, that means the world to me. And I absolutely want to get a part 2. So before that part 2 happens though, and the people that are already like, yo, I'm a fan of Esteban, like I want to connect with him, I want to plug in with him. For the people that are just listening through audio, where's the best place for them to go and connect with you? Like, where would you want to send them?
Go to Estenic, go to Instagram, and you're gonna follow me to Estenic. So my first name is Esteban, my secondary name is Nicholas. So you combine both, Estenic. So ESTENICK. And I should have like an artist name or something like that, right? Like at this point, like, you're a freaking mindset Marlon, man. Like, and I'm just Estenic. But either way, so follow me on Instagram, ESTENICK. We also have a free Facebook group called REI Real Estate Investing and Wholesaling Marketing and Conversion Mastery. So it's a free group where we go live. We also present great marketing nuggets and everything for real estate investing and wholesaling. And I'd be happy to like listen to your comments, to your messages, connect with you if you're looking for online lead generation services or VA placement, VA connection services. We just found out that we are one of the first fractional recruitment operations in the game, where we're not like doing VA arbitrage. We are actually coming in as your recruitment team and recruiting for your internal team so you can hire in-house. So we just found out that we are that. So we're going to be in the fractional recruitment operations, recruitment company.
Dude, right? That's huge. I don't even think people fully understand what that means. Like, that is, you're giving power back to your client, right? Correct. You're actually you're helping them build their business.
Correct.
Dude, that's huge. So you guys follow Esteban, connect with him, join the Facebook group, and be back for part 2, because in part 2, we're going to start to dive into the nitty gritty. We're going to start to learn more about his business, more about his business models, the accomplishments that he's gotten. So we're going to actually start to go through those highlights. And I want y'all to see the mindset behind someone that is building these highly successful businesses. It's not just, there's just so much there. So guys, be back for part 2. I'm going to have the link for that below. And if you've got any value from this episode at all, you know what my ask is. I ask that you share this out with every single person you know that you believe would benefit, because ultimately this is how we grow our communities. This is how we start to grow our mindsets. You heard Esteban said these podcasts were the things that helped him get back into grow mode. So share this out with your friends. If you're watching this on YouTube, be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you back for the next episode of Into the Mind.
I got $1 billion mindset steady.